everybody. Good morning. Welcome back to another edition of Crafting and Crime Daily, the show where I recap live trials. Now, we're going to get back to the Scott Peterson trial tomorrow and Monday. I've got a whole weekend to listen and catch up. Yesterday was kind of a busy day because, I go live on Wednesday nights. I know, isn't this sheer? Ooh. I go live on Wednesday nights, and I was coloring last night with Shalene's Creativity Room. Check that out. So today I'm going to finish talking about the Meghan Imirowicz case. She's the 19-year-old who is charged with basically the murder of her father. I'll go over the individual charges when we talk about the closings. Yeah, they've already closed. They are in jury verdict watch already. I'm watching for a verdict. The jury is deliberating. Quick case, 2.5 days. Not even full days. The second day was like half a day. Like they went to lunch, they came back, there was a couple witnesses. That was it. Justice come back tomorrow at 9:00. Had the closing arguments today, and the jury's deliberating. So, what happened? I know. I think part of what's going on here is you've got two very experienced lawyers here. Versus, a lot of times when you see these larger cases like the, Nicholas Cruz case, the student school resource officer case, not necessarily the school resource officer case, but a lot of these other cases, you're going to see the main attorney. There's a team of attorneys on each side. So you'll see the lead attorney sometimes with the important witnesses, but with the other witnesses, it's usually, it could even be an intern with the prosecutor's office or someone that's very new to the prosecutor's office. And they go through excruciating, mind-numbing detail with every single witness. And that's not happening here in this case. They're like on the stand, they ask a few questions and that's it. But I can't help in this particular case of I'm left with the feeling after all the evidence is in that I'm not being told something. Something's being left out. If I was a juror, I'd be like, and these jurors, this is in Michigan. They're allowed to ask questions, but they're not asking questions. I'd be like, oh, wait a minute, I have questions. I'd be that one. But I feel like there's something I'm not being told. Something's missing here, and we'll figure that. We'll try to delve into that a little bit. So on day 2, the first witness was the emergency room doctor at the burn center. So they first took Conrad. It's Conrad with a K, by the way. They first took Conrad Imirowicz to Ascension Genesis Hospital. I used to work for Ascension, not that hospital, but Ascension. It's a religious hospital, Catholic run hospital. So Ascension Genesis, they take him there where they figure out, okay, these are burns. We got to get him to a burn unit. So they transfer him to another hospital that has a burn unit. So he's transferred to the emergency room at this other hospital. And this emergency room physician testified that he had full thickness burns, which is like third, fourth degree burns, over 41% of his body. She took pictures of the wounds, and those were shown to the jury, not to everybody else, just the jury. Thank you. I did want to see them. I'm sure they were horrendous. And she mentioned that he had by the time he gets to this second hospital, his blood alcohol is 0.255. Now, the legal limit to drive is 0.8. Now, I'm not sure they're measuring it the same, but he was intoxicated. And he was taken to the first hospital sometime around 4 p.m.-ish. At that time, his blood alcohol level was 3. So he was clearly intoxicated. and was still intoxicated by the time he gets to this burn unit. He's still intoxicated. So the information she got, and who knows where she got this information. She she she's an attending doctor. Now, that just means her name is on everything. Like maybe the resident saw him, or maybe someone other physician saw him, but she got put down as the attending physician. So she has, plus the records, the medical records were like this high, double sided, because the guy spent 5 months in this hospital in the burn unit. So her memory of him was not great, but she thought, she wrote down in the medical records that he, Conrad, thought his daughter poured something on him while he was sleeping. This is what's recorded in her medical record with her signature on it. Now, it doesn't say where she got this information. Did she get it from the son? Who gave her? Did she get it from Conrad? I don't think she heard that come out of Conrad's mouth. That was not the testimony. That's just what's recorded in her medical record. So she was on the stand, off the stand pretty quick. Just wanted to put the photos in. I think that's why they put her on the stand, because they wanted the photos. Then there was entered into evidence a 911 call made by a nurse at Ascension Genesis. And he said that he had a patient whose daughter had thrown a substance on him, and he felt like this needed to be investigated. He also placed a call to poison control, because they weren't sure what the substance was, and poison control told them just to follow your routine burn protocol. And then in the medical records, it was recorded that Meghan threw hair dye, and cleaning supplies on him. Now, we don't know where this recording in the medical record, we don't know where this information came from. Did it come from the patient? Did it come from a relative? We don't know. So then we got to see a police video, and it was interesting. Before they showed this police video, the prosecution disclosed to the defense that the officer, the trooper who's been sitting there through this whole trial, because the lead investigator always gets to sit through the trial as sort of a representative of the state. So this lead trooper, the trooper that did the investigation, made the arrest, he's sitting there. And apparently, just before his testimony, he happened to mention to the prosecutor that there was body cam video. And he's like, body cam video? What? Never knew there was body cam video of the father and the daughter. Yeah, I've got body cam video. Want to see it? So this is disclosed to the judge. It's disclosed to the defense. The defense says, well, I need time to show this to my client and see, what we want to do. So the judge clears the courtroom, and leaving just the deputies, the bailiffs, and the defense attorney and Meghan in the room to review this video. And I got to tell you, it is a damning video. Oh my God. Yeah. So they proceeded. The two lawyers seemed to be getting along pretty well. And the defense said, I'm sure, it was no malice on the part of the prosecutor. I'm sure, like he said, he probably just found out about it. I don't want any sanctions or anything like that. So this is a police video that's about 10 minutes long. So the police, we'll start out with the video of the dad, Conrad. So they go to the hospital, Ascension Genesis. This is right before they're getting him ready to transport him. So he hasn't been transported yet, and he's talking. Now you see him on the video, but he's pretty much covered up, so you don't see a lot of the burns. You see a little bit of it, some charring under his elbow and under his hand, and the side of his neck, but I think most of it was on the opposite side of where the body cam was and underneath. Because according to the medical examiner, he was probably laying face down, but a little bit turned to the right. So he could breathe, obviously, when this stuff was put on him. Because most of it was on his right side and his back and his lower extremities. So the officer was positioned on the left side of the stretcher, so we were only seeing like the left side of his body. But he's talking, just fine. Answering questions. The nurse says, "Do you have a pacemaker?" No, I don't have a pacemaker. So he asked him, what happened, and he does say that they had an argument, and it's very disjointed what he's saying, because like one minute he's saying, "No, I was asleep when this happened," and then the next minute he's saying, "No, I was thinking about making breakfast," and so I was very confused. um, he's something about he had asked her to take out the trash, and he was drunk. Let me just say, he was drunk. Okay, so they ask him, "Can we enter your home?" And he says, "Oh yeah, it's unlocked. Go ahead, go right in." Like that was how he was talking. Seriously. So not like agony, not pain, but he may have had pain medication by then. I'm sure he probably did. But we do know he was intoxicated. So the police find out that she is at a hotel, Meghan, because that was the plan for the night. She's at this, I don't know, it was La Quinta, or it wasn't like one of these fancy hotels. When they first started saying this, I'm like, oh, she has a birthday party at a hotel. No, it was like Motel 6. They rented a room and they were just going to party in this room. That's what it was. It was not like we got the grand ballroom. No, nothing like that. And here's your new car. Okay, no, not like that. So the police proceed over to this motel or whatever it is, and they see a group of kids sitting in a vehicle. So they park next to this vehicle and they get out and they knock on the window, or they say, is there a Meghan in this car? And they're like, oh yeah. So Meghan gets out. "Well, can we talk to you for a minute?" Yeah. So he and another officer go to the front of the police vehicle. So now the front of the camera that's in the vehicle is filming them. So that's when you actually start to see them, was when they come in front of the vehicle. So they're on camera. And oh goodness, I'm getting really risque here. Okay, so and he asked her, your dad's in really bad shape. He's in the hospital. And she's like, "Yeah, my brother told me, yeah, they got burned. I understand." And he's like, "Well, did something happen? What happened? Did you do something to your?" "No, I didn't do anything to my dad. I might have thrown a bag of bread on him." That's what she said. A bag of bread. So the more they talked and the more they pushed her, at about 9 minutes in, she starts to say, they're like, "Well, there was a white powder everywhere. Did what you throw on him have a white substance to it?" And she goes, "Well, yeah, well, there was some white stuff. I saw some white stuff." Okay. "But I didn't throw it on him. I just threw it near him." Near him. Oh my gosh. She said it mostly went on the couch and a little bit on his legs. So they say, "Can you turn around? We're placing you under arrest." So they handcuffed her and away she went. Oh, one last thing she did say, "I didn't know it would do that. I didn't know it would do that." So the other thing she said, it looked like it was something for the tub. Now, I don't know what you use on your tub, but I use like Comet Cleanser, which is not white. But we're going to talk about the state of this house later on. Nobody was cleaning any tubs in this house, I guarantee you. So later on, after then the police officer testifies. Well, that's how they got the video in by the testimony of the police officer. So the prosecution rests her case. I'm like, what? You're done? Where's the forensics? Where's the fingerprints? What? That's it. Yep. So then the defense put on their case. They put on the younger sister of Meghan. Her name is Meghan Imirowicz. Younger by maybe a year, 2 years. Yeah. And she was really nervous, really nervous. And so they were very kind to her. She said, I was very close. I'm her younger sister. I'm very close to her. Not so close to my brother Austin. And then she was asked about an incident where he showed up at Austin's graduation. And this was objected to. What's the relevance? And he says, because we want to show the jury that he was a chronic alcoholic. And so the judge let it in. Apparently, he showed up at his son's graduation with his head shaved, like half of his head shaved, hair on the other half, and he was intoxicated. And he showed up late. So family was a little embarrassed. And really that's like it. That's all you got from her. And I'm thinking, well, I have lots of questions for her. I wanted to know what happened in this family. What happened? So then they put mom on the stand, Judy. Her last name is Conrad. So she was asked. Well, first of all, she was called by Austin that morning and told about what happened to Conrad or that afternoon. And he said, listen, can you go by the house and see if you can find dad's cell phone? She said, sure. Also, while you're there, can you see if you see any kind of white substance or any kind of poison? Um, because we're trying to figure out what he was burned by. She's like, okay. So she calls her daughter Morgan's boyfriend, who's 18, can you come with me? I don't want to go over there by myself. So she goes over there, and she said the place was a mess. So she was asked to describe it, and she says, have you ever seen an episode of Hoarding? That's what it looked like. like like there was just a little walkway to get through the trash, and she's went over by the couch, and she was asked about the couch being wet, and she said, no, it wasn't wet, it's just worn. That part, that what you're seeing in that photo is just worn. The material's worn off of it. It's not wet. But she did say the carpet was wet. And then when she went over there, she said she never saw this drain cleaner can. She never said, she didn't see that. She saw some white substances on the top part of the couch. And she saw some blankets and stuff balled up at the bottom part of the couch. But then on the floor, she said she stepped on it, and it was a bag of human feces on the floor. And you could see in the pictures, there was like Wendy's bags and just trash everywhere. Everywhere. It was gross. And she says, I went and I looked around the house to see what chemicals he might have. She said she never saw that can. When she went into the bathroom, she said the toilet was full of feces. She said it was just gross. She said the bathroom needed to be cleaned, the whole house. She said years ago she had tried to go over and clean it and spent 10 hours in one room and wasn't finished with it. So, and that was her testimony. Like, she said she went to the jail to get Meghan. after she got arrested, and she sat and talked to her for a while, but she she said Meghan asked how her father was, but they didn't talk about what happened. Or at least that was never asked of her. Did you find out what happened? She said she went to visit Conrad, and when she walked into the room, he's like, "Hey," like he was in a good mood. He was talking, and so she thought, "Oh, he's probably medicated and drunk." Um, he's like, "How are you?" And she's like, "Well, how are you?" So, but she never visited him after he was transferred to the burn center because her son Austin told her, "Listen," he called her and he says, "I have a plan." Well, she had set up a chat, like like a messenger. You can set up a group. She had set up a family group with her daughter Morgan, their younger son Ian, and the other and Megan and Austin, so that they could get updates on his condition. So she calls Austin because he's not updating her, and he says, um, "We've got a plan, and you're not allowed to visit. Don't you even try, or you're going to regret it." Nobody asks this woman why. Why is he so angry with you? What what is it that you did that caused this rift in this family? Like what happened? They were divorced when Morgan said they were divorced when she was in kindergarten. I don't know, many, many years ago. Like 2011, I think they said the divorce was final. And she had full custody. The mom had full custody of all four children until they became teenagers. That when Megan was 15 and Austin was 16, the, the father had filed a motion with the court for full custody of all the kids. And what they worked out was, and she had asked the kids, she felt like they were old enough to make a decision about where they wanted to live. So Megan and Austin had said, "We want to go live with dad," and the two younger kids she took. So that was the agreement. He would have full custody of the two older kids, she would have the two younger kids. We still don't know why. What was going on? Is it because he was a hoarder? Is it because he was an alcoholic? Is it because he caught you in bed with somebody? What happened to this family? Why does Austin hate you? I don't know. There's a big, huge question mark. Ooh. Okay, so then we get that was it. Closing arguments then. So the prosecution brought out some interesting stuff on closing arguments. First of all, she is charged with unlawful possession or use of chemical irritants causing death and second degree murder and or voluntary homicide and or domestic abuse. Domestic violence, domestic assault. Yeah, let's go with that. Domestic assault. And the defense in their closing actually admitted, hey, if this is anything, it's a domestic assault. We'll admit to that. It, you know, it was father, son. She was mad at him. She threw some stuff at him. Still watching. No verdict. Um, what time is it? They probably just had lunch because they're on East Coast time. Yeah, it's 1:30. They're probably just getting into the meat of it now. I could see this being a hung jury because here's another thing. This poor girl, after she was bailed out by her mom, one of the conditions of her bond was that she live with mom, stay with mom during the pendency of this. She has been in, she's in jail now. I don't know what changed that she was put in jail, but she's got a prison bracelet on, and she has come to court 3 days in a row with the same floral dress on. It's this like this was in style in the 80s, this dress. It's it's not something you would ever see a teenager wear ever. I'm sure she's thinking, good God, why did them and heels. Heels, really? The same dress for all 3 days. It's almost like this. It's like a lightweight floral dress. And she's got a sweater. And during the entire pendency of the closing arguments, which were relatively short. Um, she's clutching her sweater to her, and she's crying. Oh, it was sad. It was very dramatic. Oh, the judge is on the bench. Not sure. She called the case, but then she didn't say what it was about. Like, we're still looking at the seal. All right. If it's a verdict, I'll bring it to you. I'm not going to go live with this verdict, but um, I will let you know what the verdict was. I'll put it in either the end of today's show or tomorrow's show. We will get back to Scott Peterson tomorrow. So where was I on the closing arguments? So here's a couple of things I was thinking about, and the prosecution went over, reasonable doubt, and he went over, the different charges and what they should, you know, find. Then the defense gets up and they talk about how there was no investigation, no fingerprints, nobody could identify, nobody did even try to identify what was the liquid on the floor, the couch. Um, he put a question in the jury's mind: did the guy do it to himself? He kept saying that he had set off a bug bomb. Was he so intoxicated that he thought that this powder was a bug bomb and that he got it all over himself? Um, he said, his hands were in pretty bad shape, but Meghan's hands were fine. She didn't get any powder on her like she had deliberately dumped it on him. And then, like I said, he admitted to the domestic violence. So my question is, if she threw trash on him, was this in the trash? But so this is what I'm thinking. And then, the prosecution gets up and they do the rebuttal. And here's what he talked about. So you've got a guy who's laying on the couch and there's trash everywhere. So she wouldn't have been able to stand next to him and like pour stuff on him. But if she threw the bottle, it would have landed probably in one place. But he showed a picture of the clumps of white stuff. He says this white stuff was wet. So did she put water in that bottle and try to mix it together and then throw it? Like, just throw the water. Because at one point she does tell the police that she threw a water bottle. Was it a water bottle, or was it the bottle of lye that she put water in? That might account for it being, the length of his body. If she was standing at his head, maybe, and threw it that way. I'm just saying, I thought that was a pretty good theory for the prosecution to come up with. So that's what the jury was left with when this case ended and went to them for deliberation. Yeah, not gonna lie, I've got some questions here. What, Mom? Why didn't you bring your daughter another dress? For God's sakes, come on. How much do you love her? Oh, I love my daughter. Well, can you bring her another dress? I know I'm being silly. Well, I don't know what just happened. Like, what is going on here? Do we have a verdict? Do we have a question? I don't know. I'm thinking question because they're not the cameraman is not letting us hear anything. All right, guys, that's the show for today. If this happens soon, I'll tack it on the end, but if not, we'll find out tomorrow what the verdict was, if we get a verdict today. All right, have a great day, everybody. I will see you tomorrow on Friday for the Friday dance. Love you all. Bye.